All right, so apparently we are live. Again, I'm going to wait a few seconds just to make sure that everybody got the link and that we can start at the right time. All right, perfect. Should be working. Have two computers back to webcam just to start. So as you can see, I'm not at Demium at the moment. I'm back in France, but hopefully the Wi-Fi connection is pretty good. So I guess I'll start by just presenting myself very quickly and tell you what the next 20 seconds we'll talk about. So my name is Victor. I'm from Demium, Barcelona. I'm French originally, but I came here to co-found Elevate, which is a company in the recruiting industry and ed tech as well. Basically, we help international and global companies hire college graduates incredibly fast. We do that with online hackathons. So if that's something that interests you, feel free to send me an email afterwards. So originally today, the name of the presentation was how to build a product with engineers. I try to make it a bit more specific because I felt like it could be a large topic to sort of to attack, especially in 20 minutes. So I sort of reduced it down to really how to convince developers and how to work with developers on a daily basis. So basically, why am I doing this presentation? First of all, because I have sort of this business background, so I know as a founder how it felt to sort of struggle to find the right dev and how to work with them efficiently, because sometimes you don't know what the heck they're talking about and how to build actually your product. And also because afterwards I learned how to code. I studied computer science, and so now I feel like I have this technical background to actually understand how to build features, how to build a product from A to Z, and hence I feel like maybe I should talk to my old self and give him like a few tips and tricks to make sure you find the right dev and you convince the right dev and how to work with them. I think that's quite important, especially as a founder. So that's why I think this talk today, the next 20 minutes, will be more for I would say non-technical founders or founders with very low technical experience in terms of coding and programming. But of course, if you have a technical background, feel free to chime in the comment section, and we'll have a cool talk. All right, so this is, I think, for any startup, if you're early stage, pre-seed, or even like a confirmed startup that you're recruiting devs on a monthly basis, I think it's still interesting to know what to look at and really to avoid what I call the avoidable mistakes. I think that's the most important thing here. All right, so I guess we'll start with the first part, which is really convincing dev and finding the right devs. All right, so if we look at the status quo, basically, I think most of you are hosting events or going to events with a more technical audience, and you're usually pitching your company and trying to make sure they are interested in your product and that they want to work with you or at least for you. And I think the first thing to do here is to make sure that you're really clear and really how to target the audience, because those guys are devs, right? They're programmers, so it's not, of course, the same pitch as if you're pitching to an investor, a business angel, or if you're pitching to your customers. So you have to make sure that you adapt. Usually, of course, when you're pitching to investors, it's problem, solution, market, and then use of funds. I mean, you have different stuff here. And I think here what you need to make sure when you pitch to a technical audience is, first of all, you have to be really clear about the process, first of all, because you'll talk about the problem, and here the solution is really important for them. Like how does your product or service works? What are the steps that you have to do so they can sort of visualize in their head how they could build this in the future. That's what they like. So you have to be very clear about the process, right? Even you can even go as deep as detail as using user journeys, user stories in your pitch, just to make sure they visualize, they see what's going on here. I think the perfect thing would be a demo, even if you use screenshots from other websites, but just a very simple demo so they can see that. So I would say first one, be very clear about the process. Second part is mention the competition. I'm saying this because devs don't want to work on something that has been built before or that is being built right now. Or they want to see what's your innovative approach, what's your angle, how you're intending to build something that has never been built before. They want to be part of something, like thrilling, exciting in terms of development. So of course, if you pitch your company, like 80% of the companies, and you say, well, it's a marketplace. We have, I don't know, we have parents on one side, and on the other side we have teachers for the kids, and we connect them. Well, if you say that, it's going to be a bit complicated for this type of audience, because chances are they've already worked many times on such marketplace, and they know how it works, how to build it maybe, but it's really not exciting for them. So you have to make sure that you sell the innovation, even if it's a simple marketplace. Try to show how you're attacking the problem differently, how you're using a very specific UI, UX, very different approach to the customers. Basically, how you're standing out. I think that's really important. You also have to show them that you're attacking a market that's very promising in the future, right? So those are the things I would say when you're pitching to devs. Just make sure you say that. Also, if you want to get technical because you feel like you're talking to a technical audience and you want to show that you know what you're talking about, even though you don't, I have done that, so I know. Make sure you can back up everything you say on the technical side, right? How many founders go here and pitch their company and say, okay, this is a company about AI and blockchain, and they actually don't really know what this is about? Well, make sure you can back this up, because in the question section they will burn you alive if you're not able to back this up. And they'll be, oh, so what kind of machine learning technique are you using? What kind of decentralized platform do you want to build? And you'll be like, I don't know. So make sure every time you mention something technical, you can back it up as well. All right, so that's first the first thing is for the status quo, basically. But yeah, I would say in one sentence, just make sure you show you're building a new hot product, because that's how you can win over the best developers. And as I mentioned, they need to understand not just what problem you're tackling or what market you're attacking, but really strategically what's the process, how you actually intend on building the dev. A second part would be on top of convincing the devs, it's also finding the right devs. I think it's Steve Jobs that mentioned something like this, but there's almost like 100x factor of productivity between a very, very good dev and a good dev, right? The productivity curve the slope is very high like this. So finding the right dev can really, really change your company, I think. And so maybe there are a few tips that I can sort of hope to give to make sure you find the right one for your company. A few misconceptions maybe that you have in mind. First of all would be, of course, don't judge a dev on the languages he doesn't know or doesn't master yet. For example, I have a friend who learned computer science with me, and he was a really good coder. And he applied for a job. We learned basically in Ruby, which is a language, and he applied for a job in JavaScript, but he didn't know JavaScript really well. But the company knew that he was a good technical person, and he learned basically React JavaScript in 2 weeks, and now he's a really good coder, right? But he didn't know that at the very beginning. But people don't care, because it's all about being adaptable. That's the biggest skill for dev, I think. So don't judge a dev on the languages he doesn't know. 1 year it's going to be Python that's really trendy, then the other year it's going to be React and JavaScript. So make sure you don't fall into that trap. I did. That's why I'm telling you. So how to avoid the avoidable mistakes. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, this is very true. Something else that I found studying in the Silicon Valley a couple of years ago is that most of the devs are actually working for the big companies right now, because the salary is amazing, the benefits are great, but most of them could be still convinced to work for the company, because at the end of the day they want to build something great, and money sort of keeps them in those companies. But if you manage to convince them, then that's how and where you can get the best devs in your company. There's the stats: 60% of devs are open to new job opportunities. So make sure you go there. And in Silicon Valley, I actually build a referral platform for startups, CEOs, so they could actually if they know someone in those big companies like Facebook or Google, they could hire them through someone, even though they were still working there. And that was pretty promising because devs are just waiting for great opportunity to come out. So even if he has a job or she has a job right now, if you'll have, of course, how to work with them once you have convinced the right dev and you're happy with him and he's going to be either a co-founder or your full stack dev full time. Now you have to work with him on a daily basis and you have to retain him in the long term, right? You have to keep him entertained because, of course, in terms of money, I'm guessing you don't have the necessary financials to keep him around just with money. So you have to make it really interesting. I would say, first of all, working with devs, the first part would be definitely, especially if it's an early stage company, you basically act as a PM, right, as a product manager, where you have to deal with the engineering side as well and the marketing and business side at the same time. So when you're working with your dev, I guess, first of all, I would say learn a little bit of code, or at least how a computer and a server interacts and how to build a product like very on a very holistic view, right? Because basically your role as a CEO and when you're delegating tasks and building features, parts of your product, you have to be able to estimate the time required for a specific feature to be built, exactly like a product manager, right? If you say to your dev, I want to build this page where they can fill this form and then they get this and this and that, I want to do it in 2 days, but you have actually no idea what you need to build that, then maybe you'll think that the dev is really bad or he's amazing because you actually have no idea how long it takes. So I would say learn at least the basics of that. There are a few great tutorials online or websites where you can learn a little bit about this. It will be you'll be able to understand that, but also just to speak a little bit more the languages, right? And then you'll create a better connection with empathic connection with your dev, and that's all the better for your company. Something else that's really important if you learn a little bit how to code is to understand how to handle technical debt. So to get a bit more into details, I would say technical debt is when you have some funkiness in your code, basically when your code is not perfect, but it works, right? And sometimes you have to build the right thing because it's really important for your customers right now. And sometimes you have to build the thing right, right? This is a right thing and think right. This is sort of like how you handle technical debt. So maybe you want to build this new feature for your customers where they can sort of talk to you through chatbot, and that's something that's really important to do right now because all your customers are asking you to implement this. So maybe you want to tell your dev that even if the code is not perfectly refactored and the tests are not there yet, just code that and we'll push it online because we need that right now. So in this case, you can take on technical debt, and you're going to build the thing, the right thing, but not the thing right, if you know what I mean. So basically, yes, this is maybe the two biggest important things I would say. So learn basic of code and how to handle technical debt, and when not to handle technical debt. That's my dog going crazy just right here. Something else is to make sure you show them that they are valuable in the company, because chances are if you're recruiting a smart dev, he's going to be more intelligent than you. So you have to make him feel like he's really part of the project and an important part of it. So I would say, you can there's different tips for this. One of them could be what's happening with Google, right? Where they give 20% of the time, you can dedicate 20% of your time, sorry, in a side project that you have. Maybe the dev wants to work on another project that he has in mind, or anything that has to do with coding, but that's not part of the company. Well, 20% of your time is dedicated to that. I mean, if you say that, they'll find this pretty cool, and they'll be even more motivated to work with you in the future, because at the end of the day, a great dev, as I mentioned here, they don't come around often, and they have incredible market value in terms of productivity. It's insane what you can get with a great dev compared to just a good dev. I'm saying this because, for example, one of my mentor and teacher when I was learning computer science, he was amazing. A great example of you don't need to to know the language before working on the project. Like I was working on Ruby on Rails, for those who know, it's a language, and he didn't know anything about it. And I was just asking him questions about it, and he was just, yeah, it's probably that, and just he was solving the whole bug issue in a second. So those really incredible dev will change your life, really. The problem is that they get bored easily, of course. So you have to really make them involved in the process. Make sure that you're actually bringing value to them as well. Because if you're a founder and your startup is working well, there's a good chance that you have a pretty strong skill set, whether it is in marketing or business or selling, and you can teach him something as well. So it has to be a two ways here. But yeah, don't if by any chance you see your dev coming every Monday and not bringing in new ideas, not being excited about the product, then you can start to worry, because if he's a good dev, then he's probably in contact with other companies right now. So it's a hard game to play, but yeah, I think it's worth it. Okay, so something else with working with devs, I would say, is working in a agile environment. So I would say agile environment is something that you've heard a lot before. Yeah, we're lean, we're agile, but it's actually, I feel like it's a vague term that has been used in different areas, really. But it's really something very specific. First of all, is valuing individuals and interactions over tools and processes, and it's also uh, working on the software and iterating fast over just looking at the whole comprehensive documentation and working in the waterfall. It's also responding to change. You know how the customers react to your new feature, to new upgrades, compared to just following a plan. You know, a long-term plan. So working in Agile, I would say, is really important. There are different sort of frameworks here. Scrum, working in sprints. I think you all know this, but I think it's a very important thing to do. So I will probably end this talk and sort of start the conversation, if some of you have any questions, by mentioning something else, which is working with a remote team. Because it was something originally that I didn't want really to mention because it's a bit off topic, but I think it could be a good opening to the discussion here. And that is, working with remote team, because I'm also an Ethereum developer, so I'm really into blockchain. And for example, I was working with a company called Consensus, and it's a huge company. They are in probably 20, 30 countries by now, and they work in a completely remote manner, in a remote way. So they don't really have offices, or not really. And if you get a good job there, then you work with Zoom or Skype, and then you'll work remotely. So I think with devs, it's really the preferred way of operating. So in the future, you might have to recruit dev and work with them most of the time remotely. So I think it's important to know how to work in this remote environment. So you have to, first, I would say, create a culture where people in the company don't have to think twice before Skyping or doing a video call, right? I think it has to be sort of a very simple reflex where if you want to talk to someone, just up, Zoom, Skype, and then you start talking, working together. You can share your screen, and it's really efficient, high quality and very efficient. So you have to create a sort of a culture where this is totally normal to do. Because most of the time we think about when you want to organize a meeting or a video call, like you have to create a calendar invite and wait for the good time, whatever. So it's a bit complicated, and I feel like there's a lot of friction there. But you have to find a way to create a culture where it's really easy. You go on Skype, Zoom, and then you guys talk and set the task for the day. That's what the many companies are doing right now, and I think if you say that to devs, like 2-3 days per week, you can work remotely, and you know how to do that, how to perform well in that environment. That I think that's really valuable, and you'll get the right dev through that. So I would say that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I can sort of stay around for a few more minutes. Happy to answer any questions, or even to sort of start debates. But I think for me that's pretty much it. Let me see if I sort of forgot anything important to say, but no, I guess that's pretty much it. All right, so we have a question from Ben. What do you do when things go wrong? I run. when the remote team decides to hold you. Oh, okay. So I'm guessing by remote team, you mean you outsource your product to. I didn't really outsource the software part because I was coding it. But I would say, what do you do when things go wrong, especially when remote team? That's a good question. If you have any experience with that, I'd like to know. But I guess the thing is, you. That's a good question. Never happened really to me before. So let's see. How do you prevent that happening with a remote team? Okay, how do you prevent that happening with a remote team without making them feel you don't trust them? I guess, first of all, what I would say, at least when I work with my devs, it's making sure that we are really well organized in terms of task and KPIs, so they don't really have a chance to sort of play with the words and play with the rules and sort of screw with me, right? So that means really, if we do a weekly sprint or something, I'm really specific about the KPIs and where do we sort of do a catch-up meeting. So it doesn't really give them the space or the chance to sort of screw me over. That's what I would say. But again, no, I don't really have any experience with outsourced team. But yeah, when you work remotely, that's a big risk because you don't have them one to face to face, right? So you're just paying them, and then you're hoping for the results. So you have to make sure that you're well organized and you don't give them the space to sort of screw you over. But that's a great question. I'm not sure my answer is perfect for this, but I'll look it up. All right, so I'll stay around maybe if there's a couple of other questions. But maybe I can, yeah, I just let my email address here. If you feel free to contact me for anything tech or startups, more than happy to talk with you. So how do you learn how to code? So I graduated from business school maybe a few years ago. I was studying financial engineering, and I was also really involved in the startup ecosystem. I was working in a VC, and then I decided to go to Silicon Valley and to study there as well. And I just realized how all the founders, even the presumably non-technical one, were incredibly good at coding, or at least understanding how a computer works and a product works on the engineering side. And so I came back to that Silicon Valley trip and decided to really learn how to code. So I did one of these boot camps that we have right now. A lot of boot camps, so you have to make sure you choose the right one. That would be another topic for another talk. But so I did one of these boot camps, a full stack boot camp. So it's both back end and front end. And just in a few months, really, you learn how to code and how to become pretty good. I would say to build an MVP. Of course, you can't really handle things such as testing, advanced testing, or handling traffic, but you can at least understand really well and in-depth code. So that's how I learned. And then I was in talk with a few blockchain companies, and I learned really by myself how to code Ethereum. So I hope that Dork.ie, I hope that answers your question. But yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, I'll stay another a couple minutes just to make sure if I answer all the questions. Ben, I agree. Set the goals and KPIs very clearly. Yes, I'm not really good at this, so I'm doing my best here. What kind of software are you guys using? I used to use Asana, Trello. So yeah, very simple software is really. I'm not really a professional when it comes to that. Trello for me is enough. But if you have any good software for me for product management or to make sure you can set the goals and KPIs to people, uh, I'd be happy to know about them. So all right, you're welcome, Dorka. Happy to help. So yeah, I'll stay just a few more seconds. If you have any questions, otherwise I'll just stop the streaming. So, a question from Demium. What are you creating with Demium? It's a good question. So I joined Demium Barcelona a few months ago now. So I'm still really in the early stage of my startup. And basically, it's called Elevate. I'll probably add the link to the website in the comment section. And basically, we help companies hire college graduates incredibly fast. So what we're trying to do is really to help those college graduates once they, of course, graduate. They have a hard time standing out because a college degree and your grades are not really a competitive advantage anymore. They're more like a prerequisite to get a job. So it feels like the current sort of context right now is really different than 10 or 20 years ago. So you need some professional experience, so internships are great for this. But what we're trying to do is sort of step it up. So we're offering sort of online hackathons where we connect those huge companies. They have challenge or they're seeking innovative solutions. So they give us sort of a challenge that they need to be solved. And then we connect them with the best students in the best universities. So we have a small algorithm that does the connection and the matching. And then they solve the hackathon, and the winners can get hired, or they can get in contact with the companies. So that's how we do it. So basically, it's a recruiting software, simple as that. Ben, what are you saying? If you need that, okay. And just to add on this, so right now, I am working with sort of someone with a business background who worked at JP Morgan. I'm taking care of the selling and also of the coding part of it, but I'm actively looking for a co-founder, maybe with more experience on the company side. They work maybe with HR department. So if you know someone with that type of background, feel free to send me an email because I'm looking to expand the team. Right now we're in Barcelona, so better if the person is in Spain. But of course I can work remotely now. So, all right. Another questions from Demium. What softwares, technologies are you using for Elevate? Really simple stuff because we're just three in the company, so it's really easy for us. But I would say in terms of organization, we use Trello. So we set the task. Really, Trello, when you sort of know how to hack it, it can become really effective. So we use Trello for the task and the backlog, right? And the to-do list and what's been done, what has to be done. And then I connect Trello to Slack so we can keep track of who does what, and then create all the channels on Slack to make sure we can sort of divide the workload very well. So Trello, Slack, Google Drive, just as our main cloud provider, really. So that's how we work. And then maybe on the more technical side, personally I code on Ruby on Rails, and of course JavaScript, HTML, and CSS for the front end. And I deploy my website on Heroku, and that's pretty much it. It's really simple and easy to iterate. Many people tell me I should use Shopify, those kind of solutions, but as a coder I feel pretty bad because I don't want to pay for something that I can do, even though if it's a lot simpler. So no Shopify for me. Not yet. Bravo, yeah, thanks Ben. But I mean, at the end of the day, it takes a bit more of time, and of course, if there's a bug, you have to take care of that, and you have to make sure you can take care of that because that can take a sale away from you. So it's a risk, but for now, I'm taking it. Let's see what other softwares I'm using. Yeah, in the future, I'm going to build a decentralized platform where I'm going to keep the profiles of the best students that I have on my database, and recruiting agency will pay to have access to the data on those profiles. So to do that, I'm going to build this on a network on the Ethereum. So I'm going to use also some tools and languages like Solidity to build that Ethereum platform, but that's really in the long term. So I don't want to bother you with all the technical aspect of that right now. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Demium Startups is really active today. Thank you. But that's pretty much it for me. I think we're good with the questions. Um, and yeah, well, thank you for your time. This is my email. Hope you wrote it down. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. But I think for now we're good. I'm gonna leave you alone and working on your company. So yeah, thank you for your time and hopefully see you around.